Hey LA loves, welcome to my channel. It's that time again. Let's discuss with author LA Logan. On today, I'm going to be talking to you about how I went about writing my book. I'm often asked, how did I write my first book? Did I just dream about it? Did I plan it? Did somebody give me an idea? Did someone help me? What resources did I use? I'm going to go over all of those things with you on today, and hopefully if you have a book living on the inside of you, this is the discussion for you. You ready to get into it? Let's discuss. Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a little bit. Have you been staying healthy? Have you been drinking your water, washing your hands, and following CDC guidelines? I know I have, and I have ventured out just a little bit. I'm sure some of you have done that, and I felt safe in the environments that I did go to, but I'm not quite ready to go sit down in a restaurant or go any further than what I've already done. So yeah, I hope that you're still practicing social distancing and being safe in whatever it is that you're doing. I know we had a great weekend here, great weather, and it's tax-free weekend, so I did a lot of shopping over the weekend. So you know what that means. Yeah, there's going to be a video on me opening packages to talk about that shopping addiction that online shopping addiction that I've been dealing with. So let's get into it. If you've watched my first video where I talked about a little bit about myself and how I went about writing my books, I did talk about some of the steps that I took, but I didn't really go into any details. My first book, when I wrote it, I really did not write it from a place of, oh, somebody's going to read this. I just am an avid reader and thought, maybe I can do this, and I just started writing the book. If you want more information about exactly what I did or where that idea came from, you can go and check out the video. I'll put the link below. But on today, I wanted to give you a few more details about how I got started writing as it pertains to, I'll say more of my second book, because like I said, the first book was kind of a trial and error where I learned some things. And then the second book, I was a little more structured in what I did and intentional as far as how I went about writing it. So one of the first things that I did, and I recommend to anyone who wants to write a book, is you may want to keep a journal, or you should journal your ideas. The reason why I say that is, if you're anything like me, a lot of ideas live in my head, and sometimes I lose those ideas, or sometimes when I type something out on my laptop, I lose the idea, and then I can't remember why I was doing it that way, or why my character had that name, or if there was a meaning behind the name, or if there was a reason why I went this direction with that character. So I strongly recommend having a journal to kind of just jot your ideas down, or even maybe record them on your phone. I've done that a few times where maybe I was driving, or I was out at an event, or I was somewhere where I didn't have a notepad handy. I would just record the thought on my phone. And so I found that to be really helpful. Again, that may not work for you. It may not be something that fits into your dynamic, but I'm only sharing with you what worked for me and what helped me to be successful. The second thing that I recommend that you do is to create an outline. I did not do an outline on my first book, and mainly because I didn't intend on writing another book after I wrote the first one. It was kind of a one and done. I thought, I've accomplished this. There's no need for me to do another book. But then I started hearing from people who were like, hey, where's the next book? There's got to be another book. There's got to be a sequel to this. So I created an outline the second time around to just kind of help me keep track of my characters. Because it was a sequel and I was introducing new characters, the outline just kind of helped me keep track of the characters and who they were, what their background story was, who they were related to, what kind of issues they had, or where they worked. Just a little thing to help me stay structured when I was writing. So again, I didn't do that with the first book because I didn't think I was going to write a second book, but I found it so helpful that anytime I write a book, I always do an outline now. I can't even imagine not doing an outline just to kind of help me keep everything straight. The third thing I would recommend is kind of decide who your audience is, who's going to be reading your book. You know, if you're writing a children's book, you want to make sure that the words that you use and the structure of your book is something that a child can relate to, and that they understand the words and the story that's being told. If you're writing a book that's kind of racy, you know, a lot of people are into those types of books where I'll use the 50 Shades of Grey because most people know about that, either by way of the book or the movie. But if that's the type of genre that you're writing in, you need to make sure that's known, because you wouldn't want a child to pick up your book and start reading it. You want to make sure you're marketing it to the right audience and making it clear. If you're writing a nonfiction book, you want to make sure you're marketing it to the right audience, because some people are not into nonfiction and there's some people who are not into fiction. So you just want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of who you're marketing to as far as age group, demographics, and that sort of thing. The next thing I would suggest that you do is once you've written your book, and maybe not even so much for me, I don't usually wait until I'm completely done with my book. I usually know how I want it to start out, what the middle of the book is going to be, and how I want it to end. Sometimes I only know the end, or sometimes I only know the beginning, or sometimes I don't know anything. I'm just writing. But generally, what works for me is I start writing when I kind of know those three things: the beginning, the middle, and the end, which basically is how the book starts, when the book or the story starts to take a turn, and then how the story is going to end or roll over into another book, a sequel to that book. So once you have done that, you start writing, and I usually probably 10 chapters in, sometimes 15 or 20, but usually 10 chapters in. And also, let me back up. You also want to kind of decide in a way if you want it to be a novella or a novel. A novella is a smaller book, which generally is about 100, 140, 50 pages, somewhere in there, maybe 200 pages. With a novel, you have a larger word count. So you want to try to figure that out too, as you're figuring out your beginning, your middle, and your end. Generally, with it about 10 chapters in, I'll start having my test readers read the first 10 chapters. Now, my test readers usually comprise of somebody that I know, someone who I may not know, but they've read my work before, and or if there was a book that, if the current or the new book is a sequel to a book that I've already written, then they've read that first book, then I'll have them read the first 10 chapters. Excuse me. And I usually have about 5 to 6 test readers, and the majority of the test readers are people I absolutely do not know. They don't know me, I don't know them. They may or may not be familiar with my work, but I try not to use a lot of test readers who know me, especially know me personally, and I'm going to tell you the reason for that in just a moment. So how I go about finding these test readers is I'll usually, the environment that I work in, I am around a lot of different types of people, and I'm in contact with them. Well, this was before COVID, of course. And I would just say to them, sometimes they know I'm an author and sometimes they don't, but I would just say to them, hey, I know you don't really know me, but I'm working on a new book, and I would love to have you read it and get your feedback if you don't mind. And I've never had anybody tell me no. And I usually know that these people are avid readers because I pay attention to the people that I'm around in just various different conversations. So The reason why I don't like all of my test readers to be individuals who know me is because they may not give me the proper feedback that I need. They may not want to hurt my feelings. They may not want to tell me, I have no clue what you're writing. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't know what you're trying to say when you say this. I don't get it. This is, not worth the paper it's printed on. They may not say that to you because they know you personally. So it's always wise to get someone who does not know you. Now, I'm not saying that you need them to edit your first 10 chapters. No, you just need them to read it to kind of see if it's flowing the way you think it's flowing. Because sometimes you may think something's flowing and it absolutely is not. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with someone in helping them with getting their book written, and when I'm reading what they've wrote, I have no clue where they're going with the story. Nothing goes together. The sentences. I mean, it just wasn't good. So now I've got to be the bad person because all of their friends have read it and absolutely love it. And the reason why I say don't have someone is they might already know what the ideal is. You may have had several conversations with them about, hey, I want to write this book. I want to tell this story. And they know the story. So it makes complete sense to them what you are trying to say. But in reality, for a stranger that has absolutely no idea of what this story is, who it's about, they're clueless at what you're saying and it makes no sense. So excuse me, don't use someone that you know. Try to find individuals that you don't know or who are going to be very honest with you. After you get your first 10 pages read by at least 5, I'll say at least 5, no less than 5, because you're going to have 2 people that kind of know you or know about your books, and then 3 who absolutely don't. So once you get your 5 test readers, you take that information, tweak what you need to tweak, and be honest with yourself and accept the feedback because you're getting it for free. The last thing you want to do is print a book and you didn't get all this good feedback and the book is a flop and nobody wants to read your next work. So take the feedback. So then the next thing you'll want to do is finish writing your book. Once you complete the book, let me back up. Another thing that I do when I get the 10 chapters done is I go back and I also reread the 10 chapters, because a lot of times when you're typing, you're just typing and you may have missed a word or used the wrong word with the wrong meaning. That doesn't mean what you're trying to, use. Excuse me, or you may have spelt a character's name 3 different ways. Depending, like the name Terry, that could be spelled at least 3 or 4 different ways, when you think about it real quick. So you go back and you look for those things. And then sometimes something may not really flow. So you go back and you reread it. Once you finish the book, I encourage you, if you did not go back and reread every 10 chapters just to make sure you have everything flowing, you need to go back and reread it. I would recommend you doing it every 10 chapters just so that when you get done, you're done. Once you do that, you need to find an editor and not just an editor, but an editor who is familiar with editing, has some experience with editing books. Not your English teacher, or someone who can spell really well, or they're really smart, they pass English with an A+, no, you need to find someone who is really experienced in editing. And if you watched my video where I talked about my first book, that was one of the things that was a little bit of a stumbling block for me. I did find an editor who I felt like was a professional editor because I found them on a website that advertised all these different types of editors. And not that they did a bad job, please. I don't want that to be the narrative, but there was just a struggle, not a struggle. I don't want the narrative to be that I had a bad editor, but more so I needed to find an editor who was more familiar with the genre of writing that I was doing. That's what is so important. Because if you find an editor and they're not familiar with what it is that you're writing about, they may have a struggle in editing it to the best that it could be edited. I hope that makes sense. So how I found my editor, again, the first one I found on a website that kind of, and at the time when I wrote my book, I didn't have nearly as many resources that are available to writers as it is today. I only wish I had that. But I found that editor on a website. My next editor that I use and that I still hope to continue using, I found her by referral. I began to build relationships with different authors within the industry and who wrote in the same genre, the same line that I wrote in. And so they started sharing different editors with me and just different tips and information. Another suggestion that I have been told about, and I will pass on to you, is some of the books that you read, look and see who's listed as the editor on those books. You may or may not be able to use them. Now, if it's, an editor who works for a major publishing company, you may not be able to get access to them. But there are a lot of indie authors out there now, and they're when you read their books, if the editing was great, you didn't see any, now every once in a while there's going to be some things that are just missed. It's just sometimes it's just not perfect, but you will get the gist of it as you're reading a book. You can tell how well it was edited as you're reading it. If you find that the editing was great and you didn't find any issues with it, check to see who edited that book and reach out to them. A lot of them are freelance editors who work, that's what they do. And sometimes they'll charge you per word. Sometimes they charge you per page. So that's where it kind of goes into, are you writing a novel or a novella, to kind of know what your price point is going to be, because you're going to have to pay for your editing if you're going to be an indie author. So once you've completed your editing, you need to have your cover work done. This is where I'm kind of stuck right now. The person who used to do my covers for me retired. And so I have not been able to find a person who creates covers to work with me like that person did. With them, when they created a cover for me, I owned that cover. It couldn't be sold anymore. Nobody else could use it. Nobody else could pay a price and get it. I'm finding now in the world of trying to find someone to create covers for me, a lot of them create a cover and they'll sell it several times over. If you have the money, you can buy it. It's not exclusive. And so I am struggling with that right now. So once I have found a solution to that, or found someone that deals with exclusiveness, that will be exclusive, and they don't try to charge you an arm and a leg, that's another thing, and a big toe on your other leg that you still have, I will pass that on to you. I don't ever want to diminish anybody's work or try to tell them what they're worth or what they're not worth. Excuse me, but some of the pricing that I see, it just blows my mind that is what people are charging. Now, I did tell myself that what I need to do is learn how to create my own covers, because I do have author friends that do that. They don't pay anyone for their cover work. They do it all themselves. They've self-taught themselves. They've downloaded the tools that they need to be able to do that. Now, a tool that I keep hearing a lot about is Canva. I heard it's really great. It's a great platform to create book covers on, flyers, business cards, like all kind of those types of items. I haven't tried it, but I do plan on looking into it. So once I find out or find a resolution to that, I will pass that on. But you do need to find someone. If you can't do it yourself, find someone to create your cover art. And you want your cover art to speak to your book. You don't want to have a cover, because it looks good, but it doesn't have anything. It doesn't tell the story of what's inside of the in between the covers. I mean, you just don't want to do that. You want to make sure you'll have a feeling. I just knew whenever my covers were created and something would be sent to me and I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Maybe if we changed this or we did that. I mean, I knew when I had the cover that went along with the story that I was trying to tell. So you definitely need to make sure you have your cover. What you're going to need to do is probably the most important thing out of everything that I've talked about so far, and that is copywriting your book. It is a must that you copyright your book before you send it to print. You can even get it done before you actually get the editing done, but you definitely want to get that done because you want your hard work to be protected. The last thing you want to do is send your book out to print or send it to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com and your work's not copyrighted, because what that means is someone could potentially steal your work and pass it on as their own. And doing the copyright piece is so easy. There is a small fee to copyright your work, but I promise you it's worth it. Copywriting your work is not a hard task. Once you go to the website, you upload your work, and voila, you pay your fee, and voila, you're done. This is such an important step that I'm going to leave the copyright link at the bottom, because the last thing I want you to do is to lose your hard work to someone who did not spend any time thinking, creating. You don't do anything else that I've told you. Make sure you copyright your work before you send it to print. I mean, that's just the most important thing. I can't stress that enough. You also want to make sure that you have a good printing company to print for you. Now, Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com will print your book for you if you upload all of the information that they need. And that way you don't have to worry about going to the post office and mailing books off like I had to do years ago before Amazon started doing that. Some people, ebooks are definitely in, so you definitely want to get it, once you get all of those steps taken care of and you get your synopsis created. So you definitely want to have your synopsis created before, so that you can send that over to the editor as well. So you can get that done at the same time. And your synopsis is just what it is. It's a quick little snippet of what your book is about. And you want it to be intriguing because you want people to pick up your book. You want your cover and your synopsis to be intriguing, because that's what's going to make someone purchase your book. So you can upload it. Once you get all those things done, if you're doing ebook, you can upload it and they will, Kindle will take care of that for you, and Nook will take care of that, get it all uploaded for you. If you want them to print your books off for you, if you want people to order your books through those two tools and print it for you, that's also an option. You just follow the instructions and upload what they ask you to upload. If you want to get hard copy books printed, which I recommend that you do that. And the reason why I recommend that is because at some point you're going to want to go out and do events once we get past Corona. And you want to have books on hand so that people can purchase your books and you can sign them there at the events that you're attending. So I would recommend you finding a good printing company. I use a printing company that's in Utah. If you want to know the information about it, feel free to send me an email. I don't mind sharing. My email address is booksbyLALogan@gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to send you that information. If you decide to print books so that you can have actual copies for different events, you definitely need to apply for an ISBN number. That is the number that is located on the back of every book that is sold. Now, I order mine from a specific company. If you would like to know which company that is, send me an email and I'll be glad to share that with you. I know some people order them through the different companies that they use that are doing their printing for them, or maybe there's a company that offers it with a certain package deal that if you allow them to publish your book for you, they'll assign you an ISBN number. As an indie author, I purchase all of my own ISBN numbers, and that just works easiest for me because I pay for all of my publishing costs. So that's something that you need to be prepared for, that if you do decide to print an actual book, you're going to have to pay for your publishing cost, as well as which comprises of your ISBN number and your printing. So yeah, I use Amazon and Barnes and Noble, as well as I have a printing company that I use that prints books for me, and they're very reasonable. You don't have to request a large amount of books, although the more you request, the cheaper your printing costs are. But you can get any number of books that you need. It's very affordable. Just a quick little rundown of how I got started in writing my books and the different steps that I took to accomplish that. I'm sure I probably left some things out. If you do have a desire to write a book and you have more questions, please feel free to send me an email or leave me a comment below, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. You know, when I got started, I didn't have a lot of resources available to me, but now you have so many resources at your disposal that if you have a book living inside of you and you really feel like you got this story to tell, it's a great time for you to be able to do that. But I wanted to give you some tools to kind of help you through the process, because sometimes you just don't know. You know, I did not know, and it was hard. And I'll do another video about getting your books out there and letting people know that you've written a book, how to go about doing that. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the discussion on this evening. If not, oh well, maybe next time. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I'm glad that you decided to stop by and join in on our discussion. If it's not your first time, hey, welcome back. How have you been? How have things been going? As you know, I'm still trying to get to our 50 subscribers, and I need your help to do that. I ask that you click the like button, the share button, and the subscribe button. And also click the bell. The bell's going to notify you when new content has been loaded to the channel. And if you share the video, I'm sure we can surpass the 50 subscriber mark. I just truly believe that. And I truly believe that you're going to help me do that. Before I get out of here, I want to say this. Remember, the plans for your life have already been designed. It's just up to you to trust the planner. Have a good one, everybody.